All right, guys, time for the main event of this episode. Call the spot on the card. And if you never watched the first edition that we did for this, I'll give you a little breakdown here. This is kind of like the marry, fuck, kill game if you're used to that game. And if you're not, I'll break it down even more then. There are 5 people on this list, and we need to position them into 5 different categories. There's, in order of importance, main event, upper mid-card, jobber, and then finally the lowest one is that you actually release the person. And each one of the 5 people on this list has to go in one of those spots. You can't double up on anything. So it means no matter how hard it is, if you can't figure out, you don't want to release anybody, too bad, you have to. If everybody sucks and you really don't think any of them deserve the main event, too bad, one of them's got to do it. So you can't leave anyone open, you can't just skip anybody. That's the whole point of the game. Since Evolution and Shield are pretty much the biggest focal points going on right now, we're going to do this based off of Evolution. And that means that we have the 5 people for this edition are Batista, Mark Jindrak, who was originally going to be the position that Batista ended up filling, Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Triple H. So those are the 5 people that you got to put in those 5 categories. So I think the easiest way to go around here is to go lowest to highest and go around in a circle here. Release. I'm going to release Mark Jindrak because he wasn't even good enough to be a part of Evolution, so why does he deserve to be anything else here? That's pretty simple. Drew, who's getting released?
Ric Flair, because he's a fucking drunk and he can't make it to the ring.
That was kind of brutal.
Yeah, why don't you just go, hey, and his kid's dead?
His kid's dead.
So you're going with Ric Flair?
Yes, I swear to God, I'm going for Ric Flair.
All right. Peyton, who are you releasing?
I actually would go with Ric Flair as well.
Same reasons?
There's just no reason to have an old fart around unless you're putting him in the Legends house, which
He's
is not
drunk.
wrestling.
Yeah, true.
And he's a drunk.
Way go.
Jindrak, couldn't give a fuck about the guy. He's never done anything remotely entertaining for me.
So that brings us to Jobber, and that one is going to go with Ric Flair for me. I'm kind of going under the assumption here that we're not doing the best in their prime kind of a thing, that we're just doing what they're doing now. So that's kind of where Ric Flair goes. I actually kind of like your suggestions about releasing him instead. So in retrospect, I should have gone with that, but hey, I did this ahead of time, so I ended up going with Ric Flair for my jobber. Drew, who's your jobber?
Triple H.
Really?
Yeah, because you know how he's like been that guy that's been like, bury him, fucking get the shovel out. Yeah, it's his turn to fucking get that shovel. He's getting that shovel work now. He's getting that burial by Jindrak. That's what's up.
Fuck's sake, Drew.
Peyton, jobber.
My jobber would be Mark Jindrak. The reflection of perfection he is not.
That was the name that he used? I don't even remember that.
Yeah, for a
WWE
brief period of
bro.
time. When they actually gave him somewhat of a push, they called him the reflection of perfection.
I'm a reflection of perfection. Wago, who's your jobber?
My jobber is the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and the reason I did that is because Ric Flair's still a household name, no matter what fucking age he is. And him jobbing out to some of the younger talent is a fantastic move. It gives them a notch in their belt to say, hey, I beat the 16-time world champion.
Yeah, if you could fucking make it down there ring without falling over.
We're bleeding.
Hey, they don't film Hogan when he actually goes for the ropes. They can just do the same with Flair.
Now we're in the middle of it, mid-card. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're a mid-card champion or anything like that, but you basically float around the middle and you can go up and down, kind of fill a spot like a Kofi Kingston would. Giving that to Randy Orton. And that's kind of tough because Randy Orton could be an upper mid-carder or a main event person as well. But I think there's bigger fish to fry, and I think that Orton does really well in the mid-card kind of spot. And another thing that's kind of hindering him here, if you look at Evolution in the past, even though he did win a world championship when he was pretty young and he was a part of Evolution and all that, you can tell that he was still the mid-carder of the bunch. So that's kind of hurting him here for me. Randy Orton's my mid-carder. Drew, who's your mid-carder?
I'm gonna go with Jindrak because he's a reflection of perfection, and someone's got to bury Triple H.
Peyton?
My mid-carder would also be Orton. That guy is dreadfully overrated. Maybe the guy could have achieved a main event run once in his career, but he should not be, what is he, like an 11-time champion now?
I think he's at least 9.
I thought it was like a 13-time.
It's some ridiculously high number. It's just absurd. He's not that good.
You know what's
good.
weird?
He's very good, but he's not that good.
Just think about it. He almost has as many world champions as Cena does.
Mm-hmm. He's a guy who would be a perfect Intercontinental Champion to give prestige to that, to go out there and have badass matches and good feuds with lots of people. But I can't see him being a long-term main eventer. But that's just me.
Way go.
I'll be interested in hearing your guys' thoughts on how you can put Batista higher than him, because Batista's my mid-carder, and just for the reason whilst he's really not that good. And whilst I see more value in him than a Flair and a Jindrak, I just don't see what he can really do on a main event level. He's awful in the ring. He's had some good matches, but it's with guys that are pretty much carrying the load for him. People like to point out the Undertaker match as a fantastic match. Well, yeah, Taker carried him.
Undertaker wasn't known for having amazing WrestleMania matches at that point. Batista played a big part in that as well.
Yeah, I think he got carried through that match, and his workload and work rate as a whole, it's just lackluster. And every time that I've seen him in a main event position, other than his last heel run with John Cena, it's been fucking dreadful. So Batista is a mid-carder for me, and nothing more.
Batista is Pyro.
Yeah, we fucking know, Drew.
See, the reason I gave Batista my upper mid-card spot, a lot of it actually has to do with just the way that he looks. And, I mean, that does play a part in WWE. I think...
Looks a lot skinnier now, though.
Yeah, but he still looks pretty impressive. I mean, if you saw that guy getting beaten up by some other mid-carders, it would look a little bit weird, and I would believe it more with Randy Orton. Plus, I also kind of think that the upper mid-card spot is something that can have a little bit of leeway. You can be a jobber to the stars, and you can beat up mid-card people, and you can lose to mid-card people still. Randy Orton could be like the king of the mid-card, kind of. And I can't see Batista really filling that kind of a spot. The mid-card really is sort of dependent upon putting on really good matches. In the upper mid-card, they can just be a part of more like standard feuds and stuff. And Batista isn't well known for those kind of matches and stuff. So when you put him in the upper mid-card, you give him a spot to have an actual feud where it depends on stuff more than his in-ring work. And that kind of lessens the blow a little bit. Clearly, he's not good enough for main event, and I'm spoiling obviously who my main eventer is, but that is why I gave Batista my upper mid card spot. Drew,
I gave mine to Randy Orton, and the reason why is because, he's not, like everyone said, he's not really particularly amazing in anything, but he's pretty good at the stuff he can do. I mean, when I got back into wrestling in like 2010, 2011, 2012 especially, he kind of played that upper mid-card face role where he just, they just put him in the feuds, like, World Heavyweight Championship matches, and like, feuds that, to help put other guys kind of over, even though he didn't really do it. But, I think he excelled pretty well in that role, despite the fact that he did nothing. So, to me, I think he's a perfect guy to put in the upper mid-card role. He could go out and have a good match, and he's Randy Orton. He's a legend killer. And, yeah.
Peyton?
Well, my upper mid-card is also Batista, and I'm pretty much going to be following everything that you said, Tony, but also adding to that, I would also want to add that Batista, more so than Randy Orton, who is more a wrestler, and yes, that's what Randy Orton is very good at. He's good at being a wrestler. Batista is a star. Batista just has star power written all over him. He's got the chiseled look. He looks larger than life. He acts larger than life. He's got this attitude of being larger than life. He's a movie star. He's got a lot more clout than Randy Orton, who, I'm the son of the guy who wore a cast on his arm.
Got that hat though.
That sounds super impressive when you put it that way.
Batista has so much intensity, and it just matches with everything he has, with his music, his pyro. That's just such an awesome character, and it was the guy who rivaled Cena through those 2006, 2007 years where Cena was on his highest game. So I think that has a lot to say. I mean, he's basically the Ultimate Warrior to John Cena's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way. He really would be the Ultimate Warrior.
I'd agree to a degree, but I think he fizzled out a lot.
He
Yeah,
did.
he did.
I don't think he has necessarily all the tools, once again, to be a full-time main event player. I think he's a guy you could, jut in there every once in a while, because I have liked some of the main event things he's done. I liked his work with Cena. I liked his work with The Undertaker. I liked his work with, I want to say Khali.
It's like, crap, who else
After
other
that
than
John
Khali?
Cena
Yeah.
take a feud, it's kind of hard to fit him in anywhere.
Yes, you said good matches for Mysterio when they were both on SmackDown.
He did. That's right. He did have some good matches. Basketballs don't hold grudges. I know I've seen other things, but I know I've seen a lot of things where I'm like, oh God, Batista, just go away. Him being away for a number of years has certainly helped. And I've liked his character since he's come back. I know a lot of people have been shitting on him, but I've enjoyed him. I've enjoyed his mic work. I've enjoyed his. That's one thing I got to give Batista props on. He's one of my favorite kind of wrestlers one of my favorite kind of wrestling promo guys where they just. You never know what ridiculous thing might come out of their mouth. He's in that same league as like a Psycho Sid or a Scott Steiner.
So what you're saying is he's not just welcomed, he's allowed.
Yes, exactly.
Do you like his beard, though?
Oh, I love his beard.
He needs to
Too.
fucking shave his head, though. He's got a big bald spot.
I think whenever they
He's
show
got
those
more hair on his
graphics,
face than his head.
whenever they show those graphics of, like the match coming up later on tonight is Seth Rollins versus Batista or something like that, it doesn't look like he's got a beard. It looks like he just smeared chocolate all over his face.
Yo, but for real talk, some of those tattoos gotta go. Those are really costing some man points when you got like those big stars on your tit.
And the
But-
belly button.
That,
Yeah, but also what he's done to his back now. He used to actually have tattoos where you could go, oh, I can see what that is. I can see what that is. You can't see shit anymore.
yeah, it just has a black fucking splotch on his back now.
Yeah, he's just got like one big splotch and a whole bunch of lines. I'm like, what the fuck did you do to yourself, you daft twat?
Tattoos.
Skinny pants. Those white pants, though.
Yeah, main eventers don't rip their jeans.
All right, so Wago, who is your upper mid-carder?
Triple H, and a lot to do with that is just I think he's lost his appeal as a main eventer now. He doesn't do much for me anymore, and this is coming from a guy who, when we was watching wrestling, when Shawn was out, Triple H was his favorite wrestler. So I think I've just worn out on him. Where I think it's overkill at this point. His match with like CM Punk, that was so mediocre, and his match with Brock was mediocre. He had a great match with Daniel Bryan, but for the most part, he's just not a main event level guy anymore, and he's better putting over main event talent and being a jobber to the stars at an upper mid-card level. Kind of how I said Ric Flair would be a good jobber.
All right, so that brings us to the top spot here, main eventer. I'm going, obviously, with Triple H here. He's a main event guy. He is somebody who fulfills the spot of looking the part. He has had good matches. He's, been a multiple-time world champion. He's got the credibility behind him. And even though I disagree with how he has gotten a lot of that credibility, he still has it. And he could win a world title at any time, and I wouldn't look at it as bullshit. I might not like it, but I wouldn't question it. It wouldn't be a situation where, when TNA puts fucking Eric Young in the championship and you're like, oh, give me a fucking break. This dude was a jackass before. And if WWE were to do that with somebody like a Santino, you give him the WWE World title, it's going to look stupid. You give it to Triple H, I might be annoyed and I might want him to lose it immediately or something like that, but I'm not going to go, oh, fuck, Triple H out of all people? How does he get a chance at a title? So even though he was the now of Evolution before, I think he kind of still is. And I think that his match with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania ended up proving that. Drew, main event?
My main eventer was Batista. and it still is. I picked Batista because like Peyton said when it came to the upper mid card role, he has like that star power. Like he said, he started in movies. He has that look of a main eventer. I mean, he was like the counterpart of John Cena for a number of years back in like the mid to late 2000s. And I don't know, I've always had a soft spot for Batista. Kind of like Steven kind of said. When Shawn left, he had Triple H. I don't know why. I've just always liked Batista. And I think as much as we all hated the idea of him winning the championship when he came back, if he were to win the championship now, I wouldn't complain. I think he does need to get the championship before he leaves again, but like indefinitely for a long time. So, yeah, and also he has great music and he has pyro, and that's why he is the superstar and the main eventer.
Peyton?
My main eventer is going to be Triple H. This guy has still got it. He is one of the greatest of all time, and I will argue that to the death. I'm not going to say the greatest, but top 10, absolutely. And a personal favorite of mine. He's definitely the guy who filled that spot for Shawn, just as has been said here. He took that role of being that sort of bad boy, but also still really clean in the ring and all that other thing. Few people have had the crispness that Triple H has had when he was in his prime. And yeah, he's I would say at least the tail end of his prime, but he can still have some kick-ass matches. And that one with Daniel Bryan and these recent things he's been doing with Evolution proves that this guy has still got it so damn good. It's a shame that he can't wrestle more, I would say. And I think the only reason he doesn't is because he's so overwhelmed with all these business things, which the reason he got that, yeah, okay, he married the daughter, but because he understands this business. He gets it. He knows everything about it in and out, and that's why Vince liked him before he even got with Stephanie, and then he gave him the blessing, and now he's cool with him taking over the company someday. So Triple H would absolutely have to be the main eventer in this situation.
You know what the thing about Triple H is that, I'm surprised he's wrestling right now as much as he is and appearing on Raw, despite all the business stuff he has to do. He's regularly on Raw every week now for the past year now. Surprised me.
I think one of the biggest pats on the back you have to give to Triple H is the fact that he can still go after so many years after having 2 quad tears. I mean, that's fucking insane.
Which did slow him down a lot, but he was still very good because, he still understood timing. He still understood a lot of those things. But, man, if you go back and watch some of his matches from, 1997, 1998, 1999, that guy busts his ass.
Yep. Hard worker, one of the biggest hard workers, but he doesn't get the credit because of Stephanie, so it's a shame.
So, Wago, who's your main eventer?
I struggled between Triple H and Randy Orton, but I went with Randy Orton. Currently, right now, I say he's the best in the ring out of all of them. He's got a better look than all of them. One of the biggest points that people are bringing up is how great Batista looks. I think he looks like shit now. He's slimmed down. Randy Orton looks bigger than him. Triple H looks bigger than him. I just don't... When I have to compare all 5 guys, Randy Orton just seems the most born and bred for the main event scene. And when he's given something to work with, a decent storyline, he's fantastic. Unfortunately, you can't turn chicken salad out of chicken shit. So, in the end, I choose Randy Orton as my main eventer, and I think he can go in the ring with anyone. There's not anyone on the roster where I go, I don't want to pair him up with Randy Orton because I don't think it'll be a good match.
No, Great Khali.
Great Khali isn't on the roster anymore.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty damn tired of John Cena, Randy Orton. They face each other 300 times.
Oh, here's the thing:
none of those matches were good.
No, I wouldn't say their matches are bad. I think it's just the fact that we've seen it that many times that we're tired of it and we don't give it a chance.
Yeah.
Well, every time we hear John Cena versus Randy Orton, we switch off. And that's just repetitive, boring booking. As I said, you can't turn chicken salad into chicken shit. Sorry, chicken shit into chicken salad.
Oh, God.
You can turn chicken salad into chicken shit.
I was going to say. That's what I was about
Pretty sure everybody does.
Hey, I shit the best. We already established this. So yeah, Randy Orton. I think he's born and bred for it, and he can work with anyone.
So this is a totally unintentional transition, but speaking of shits and giggles, why don't we just try to figure this out?
He's giggles.
Why don't we figure this out real quick? We don't need to really do a full rundown, but if we were to talk about people in their prime, that makes Ric Flair a hell of a lot higher up on the list.
Yeah,
I
Not for
think
me.
he would not be higher than maybe the upper mid card for me though. I still think I would go with Triple H for the main event. And I don't know, but I think that would end up actually reversing my Batista thing, and I'd end up making him the jobber.
I would definitely bring Flair up higher, but I don't think I could put him higher than the mid card. Flair's another guy who I think has been horribly overrated.
Yeah, man. If we're talking about people in their prime, I think Mark Jindrak would be the fucking main eventer.
Now, in their prime, Triple H blows all these guys out of the water.
I will agree with you with that one. Triple H is fucking the man.
Well, if we're talking in prime, it goes like this for me: Triple H, Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, Jindrak.
I think that's pretty much the list that I would have.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I was talking about every guys right now in the business. Triple H blows every one of them out the water. When you're talking about 1999, guy was on fucking fire.
So tell us what you guys would end up putting for the list. And you know what? Why not do it for both of them? Whether or not they're in their prime or what they're doing right now. Leave those below on YouTube. Or if you don't want to post that on YouTube, go to smarkoutmoment.com. Leave a comment on the post that's up for that. And tell us what you guys think. And if you have any suggestions for another Call the Spot in the future, then leave them too. We almost did Nation of Domination this week. And, maybe we'll come back to that another time, do Call the Spot with those people. Who knows? We have one last thing to take care of for this episode. Coming up in the next part, Fantasy League trades and updates.